Greetings and welcome. This is the ThaBadbrey Herbalist SR of the ThaBadbreyHerbal.co.uk. And today I am going to explain to you how ancient astrological symbolism and correspondences are intrinsically embedded into the very fabric of the entertainment that is prevalent within modern society. All right. This is the ThaBadbrey Herbalist SR, ancient astrologer of the ThaBadbreyHerbal.co.uk. So I'm going to focus upon a film, yeah, not even a film, a franchise, a manga, if you could call it that. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, all right? Now, when I look at this through the eyes of an ancient astrologer, it's so blatant to me that all of these turtles, these characters here, have been purposely designed aesthetically so that they correspond with astrological symbolism. All right, it's blatant. I mean, this is like this is an old cartoon, yeah, an old comic. This image is taken from an old comic, yeah, and then you got an image from, when was it, 2014, and they're still using the same astrological correspondences and symbolism right in front of your face. All right, so let's start off, yeah. Now, if you've been following this video series on the astrology hidden within, you should be familiar with where I'm going with this. It's quite obvious. Look at the colors they're wearing on their heads. Look at this. But anyway, let's start off. Let's start with Leonardo. Yeah. Now look at Leonardo. Look at him. He is wearing a blue headband. Yeah. It is blue. All right. Now to me, this is quite obvious. Look at Leonardo and look at his character. If you're familiar with the turtles, his character, he is the leader of all four of them. He likes to keep the family together. He likes him and his brothers to move as one. He always wants harmony to take place between him and his brothers, and he wants them to be a family. Yeah? I mean, look at this image. In the old images, Leonardo was always seen in the center of all of them. And then he had Donatello and Michelangelo on either side of him. And then right at the front, spearheading, you had Raphael, all right? Now, to me, it's blatant to me what this represents. He's wearing blue. He represents emotion. He represents the moon, all right? He represents Cancer, a domestic environment, the fourth house of the zodiac. He wants there to be peace and harmony with his brothers, yeah, as well as within the world. That's what he strives for. That's a running theme throughout all of the Turtles films, yeah? All of the cartoons, all of the films. Leonardo's the leader, and he wants the family to stay together. He is the moon. He is the crab. Even his weapons, the weapons that he holds, can be synonymous with the pincers of a crab. Even in some poses, the way he's holding up the swords looks like the glyph of Cancer. All right. So this is a bit blatant, yeah. And then he has, in this image, in the old images, most of them, he has his brothers on either side of him, representing the sideways movement of the crab. All right. So that's obvious. Now, Leonardo gets very emotional when he sees that there's disharmony, especially among his brothers, yeah? And he has trouble relating to Raphael, all right? And Leonardo gets very emotional, very upset, and the emotion stirs inside of him, yeah? Just like an ocean. The ocean, the emotion, which is controlled by the moon, and the moon rules Cancer, and Cancer is synonymous with the color blue, which is why Leonardo is wearing blue, all right? Now, Leonardo, he leads, all right? And he seems to get on well with all of his brothers, apart from Raphael, all right? He always bumps heads and clashes with Raphael, all right? Raphael, as we can see here, let's look at this, yeah? Raphael, he's wearing red, okay? What does that correspond with? You should be familiar with this. It blatantly corresponds with Mars, all right? And what does Mars do? Mars is to do with passion, determination, fighting, acting upon impulse, all right? Raphael will punch first and ask questions later, all right? And he feels that he should be the leader. He should be in front, all right? He's hot-headed, all right? Look at his face. He's wearing red for a reason. Why else would he be wearing red? He corresponds with planet Mars, all right? Even his weaponry, yeah? His weaponry. Out of all of the turtles, yeah? Raphael's weapons can only be used, looks like, to stab in straight lines, yeah? You can't, or interlock with another weapon and block it. This is very similar to the straight line motion of a ram, all right, which is ruled, which symbolizes Aries, which is ruled by Mars, and Mars is the manifestation of which Raphael is being presented as, all right? Raphael is a representation of Mars and the ram. The horns of the ram can be seen as being synonymous with Raphael's weaponry because these weapons can only cause damage if they are thrust in a straight line, and he can also use them to defend himself or block other weapons by locking the weapons in between these areas here, all right? Just like the horns of a ram. When a ram runs, it runs in a straight line, runs into another ram, and then sometimes their horns interlock, all right? Just like what Raphael has, all right? So that's what Raphael represents. Now, he clashes with Leonardo, and the reason why he clashes is because Raphael is a representation of Mars, all right? Whereas Leonardo is a representation of the moon and Cancer, all right? Now, astrologically speaking, if Mars, the planet Mars, is found in the sign of Cancer, that means Mars is in the sign of its fall. Mars does not like being in the sign of Cancer, all right? It has very little power to act and feels very restricted, all right? Now, Raphael always says he feels restricted. He feels like he should go out on his own. He feels like Leonardo's just trying to take him over and that he's not allowing him to be himself. All of that because he does not get on with Leonardo because Leonardo represents the moon and represents Cancer. And when Mars, which represents Raphael, or what Raphael represents, when Mars is in Cancer, Mars is in fall. Therefore, they're always falling out with each other. There's always misunderstandings. Raphael always feels like he's being controlled by his brother, Leonardo, all right? That's why that happens. Now, Raphael is a warrior, yeah? Just like the rest of the turtles, but him in particular, he likes to fight, yeah? Just like Aries, the ram. He likes to run out there and fight and get down and just fight everybody, all right? That's what he likes. Now, now, what happens? Mars represents fire and heat and anger and tension, all right? Whereas the moon, Mars, going back to Mars, Mars is a hot and dry planet, all right? If I was doing an astrometeorological report or weather report to forecast the weather in a particular area of the world, and I saw Mars, I would take Mars as an indication that the temperament of the weather may be hot and dry, all right? Now, Mars is a hot and dry planet and is associated with fire and passion, yeah, and heat. Whereas the moon is associated with being cold and moist, all right? Now, Mars represents Raphael, yeah? He's hot, he's passionate, he's fiery, and he's angry and represents heat, lava, all right? The moon represents Leonardo. Leonardo represents the moon, cold, moist, emotional, taking time. Now, what happens if you mix lava with water? You get steam. All right. So as you can see, all of this lava here is Raphael, and all of this water here is Leonardo. And when they come together, you get steam, you get a reaction, you get anger, you get disagreements. And that's the reason why that takes place. Yeah, astrologically speaking. It's quite obvious, you know. So now let's move on to Donatello. Now, Donatello is wearing purple, all right? He wears purple. And he is the person who is responsible for all of the gadgets that you see the turtles with, yeah? The van that they have, he kitted it up, yeah? He put all gadgets, he pimped it. He pimped the turtles van. Donatello pimped it. That's what he did, yeah? He pimped their ride. It has all these gadgets in there, all because of Donatello. He gave them the gift of the van, all right? All of the gadgets they have is because he gave it to them. He has a gift. Out of all of the turtles, Donatello is very gifted he's gifted technically, yeah? And his technical gifts he bestows upon his turtle brothers, his turtle brethren, all right? Now, the person who bestows gifts astrologically is always Jupiter. And it just so happens, by no coincidence whatsoever, that Jupiter, astrologically speaking, is synonymous with the color purple, which is why Donatello's wearing purple. He gives all of these gifts to his brethren, all right? Okay? And he's able to merge so much things together in his mind to make things work out in a way that will be beneficial to all of the turtles, yeah? Why is he able to do this? Because he's able to see both viewpoints. Usually he's able to look at both viewpoints of Raphael, which represents Mars, and Leonardo, which represents the moon, and put them together and come up with something viable. Now, if you look at these colors over here, look at this. You got this red color over here, this is Raphael. And then you've got this blue color over here, which is Leonardo. And when you mix these two together, you get purple, which is Donatello. He sees both sides of it. And then he says, what can I do about this? He brainstorms, he goes into the void, into the subconscious reality of himself. Then he says, what can I do? Then he emerges on the other side, this yellow part here, this orange part here, which represents Gemini, Mercury, thinking. And he's able to create this yellow circle, which is right here, and fill that void which is missing from the trio of red, yellow, blue, all right? And as a result of it, he makes everything more harmonious due to his intelligence and bestowing the gift of technological gadgetry and mastery onto his turtle brethren, all right? That's another way of looking at it, okay? Now, let me go back. Keep going back. So Donatello, he represents Jupiter, while at the same time he's able to tap into that Mercurian energy. If you watch the Turtles franchise, you see that Donatello gets on very well with Michelangelo because they have a similar nature, all right? They have a very similar nature in terms of the way they see things. Michelangelo thinks very fast and is ruled by Mercury, whereas Donatello is ruled by Jupiter and is able to look at the viewpoint of Leonardo and Raphael, put that together, go into the void of himself, and then create a Mercurian technological device that can bring harmony to all of them. All right. So Donatello represents Jupiter. He bestows the gift of technology upon him. Now, in this day and age, most people, not even children only, children as well as adults are usually very, very delighted if somebody buys them some type of technological gadgetry like a new smartphone or a new computer or a new smart TV. Yeah, that is the ultimate gift in the modern world, which is why Donatello is wearing purple, and he bestows technological gadgetry and gifts upon his turtle family because he represents Jupiter, the bringer of gifts. Now, let's move on to Michelangelo. Now, this is obvious. Look at this. He's wearing orange. This represents the air signs of the zodiac. Yeah. Now, what does Michelangelo do? He thinks very quickly. He speaks first, and then he thinks about what he has said afterwards. Yeah. He doesn't think out what he's gonna say beforehand and then say. He speaks very quickly because his brain works so fast, and then he just speaks. Then he's like, "Oh my gosh, I might have offended somebody. Is what I said offensive? Oh my gosh." This is typical of the Mercurian energy working overtime, all right? And the fact that he's wearing orange and the fact that he has these weapons here, he has nunchuckers in his right hand, which are two sticks, and he has nunchuckers in his left hand, which are two sticks. He's the only turtle who has weapons in both hands that are twinned, all right? So to me, this blatantly, Michelangelo, he blatantly corresponds with Gemini, all right? The twins. Look at his weaponry. He has twin sticks in the right hand and twin sticks in the left hand. He thinks very quickly. He enjoys eating pizza. Out of all the turtles, he enjoys eating pizza the most. Why? Because he likes eating cheese. Opiate. He likes eating wheat. Opiate. He likes to stimulate his brain. He likes to stimulate his brain because he's Mercurian. He's ruled by Mercury. He is Gemini. Michelangelo is Gemini. If you bring a Gemini to a party, it's very likely, usually, that the person who has a lot of Gemini energy will be the first person on the dance floor, the first person talking and cracking jokes. This is Michelangelo. He's cool but shrewd. What is it? Michelangelo is a party dude. If you he likes to dance on the dance floor, everything. He likes to stimulate himself, all of that. Michelangelo is truly Gemini. Even in the 2014 film, he was a person that was bossing the most joke. And he wears orange. Yeah? Gemini, the twins. The synapses firing, speaking so quickly. Mercury rules communication. It also rules speaking. It rules thinking. Yeah? Thinking on your feet. It rules transport. It will rule helicopters. Helicopters with propellers that rotate. Rotating in exactly the same way as Michelangelo's nunchuckers. Rotating in the same way as Michelangelo spinning on his shell on the dance floor. Like a break dancer. Yeah? He's Gemini, Michelangelo. Now, whenever you see yellow in any film or any type of artwork, it usually corresponds with the air signs of the zodiac and communication of some kind. I mean, if you look at Mercury itself, Mercury would rule newspapers. In mundane astrology, Mercury and the third house will rule newspapers, news reports, news vans, all right? Journalism is all ruled by Mercury. Gemini, more than anything else, which is ruled by Mercury, rules all of those things, all right? If you're watching a news report, it will be ruled by Mercury, which is synonymous with air signs of the zodiac, which correspond with the color yellow, all right? And the synapses firing within the brain, stimulating the brain, all right? Or if it's news, trying to propagandize its audience through public relations in order to hypnotically suggest thoughts inside those who are listening or watching the broadcast. So it just so happens that April O'Neil, who on Turtles is in charge of, was it Channel 6 and the news, she wears yellow. I wonder why she's wearing yellow. See, it's a bit obvious why she's wearing yellow. It's obvious. April O'Neil, the news. Mercury, Gemini, third house. Obvious. So let's move on. Let's move on to Master Splinter. Yeah, let's look at Splinter. Who does he represent? Let's break it down. Splinter is a rat. He lives in a sewer. He lives in sewage. He lives in a place that is dark and dingy and stinking. All right. He fights with his tail. His tail will snap very unexpectedly and catch his enemy off guard. All right. So to me, Splinter, to me, represents the astrological sign of Scorpio. I mean, look at the glyph of Scorpio. It has a tail, just like Master Splinter. Now, Scorpio, traditionally speaking, is ruled by Mars. All right. Mars can be expressed either in a masculine sense or in a feminine sense. Mars rules Aries. Somebody with Aries energy, somebody with Mars in Aries in their natal chart, if they're angry with you and they are planning to punch you in your face, you would usually know about it long before it actually happens. They'll say to you, I'm going to punch you in your face. Stand right there, I'm going to punch you in your face. Watch. Just like the ram, they'll charge up, stamp their foot on the ground and run into you and then punch you in your face. And you'll be fully prepared. However, somebody with Mars in Scorpio would never tell you. They would say, you won't even know. You would offend them and then they would smile. They'll say, that's fine, that's cool, that's great. Yeah. And then they'll invite you to their house and say, do you want to come around to my house? Like, we're having a couple of drinks. You go around there. You'll be talking, they'll be laughing and joking with you. And then, all of a sudden, the person with Mars and Scorpio gets up. They close the door. They lock the door with you and them in a room. And then they say to you, I remember when you really got on my nerves. And I remember when you really disrespected me. So this is what's going to happen. I'm going to punch you in your face until you apologize. That is somebody with Mars in Scorpio. You're never going to know that they're coming for you. It's like, for example, if you have a scorpion, all right, a ram, which is also ruled by Mars, which rules Aries, will take a run up from how many yards and then run into you. You'll be fully prepared. Whereas a scorpion, you would never know it was there. You'll find a scorpion in your shoe. You won't even know it's there. You put your shoe on. All of a sudden, you feel a stinging sensation. And then you look and you say, oh my gosh, I've been stung by a scorpion. I think I'm going to die. That's the typical energy. So you have Master Splinter. He lives in hidden areas. Scorpio, astrologically speaking, rules hidden, secluded, stinking, decrepit areas. Yeah. And rats are synonymous with Scorpio. They come out in the nighttime. Yeah. Nocturnal. Yeah. And they're sly and very intelligent, just like the Scorpio energy. Yeah. And because Scorpio is the feminine, it is the feminine expression of Mars, this is why it is more controlled. It is more cunning. It's harder to detect it. So Master Splinter is Mars, all right? He is the most powerful warrior out of all of them, all of the turtles. He's the teacher of them. And he has this tail which corresponds with not only the glyph of Scorpio, the tail corresponds with the tail of the scorpion. See? Look at this picture. He's using his tail to lick Shredder in his head back. Lick him in the face. Lick him in the face. Lick him. Yeah? And then look. In the same way that the Scorpio does, which corresponds with stinking areas, sewage, waste, and decrepit areas. Yeah? So that is a bit obvious. The other thing I want to say about Splinter, yeah, is that I'm digressing now, but the thing about Splinter is he's a rat, all right? Now, based upon my own educational understanding of rats and rodents, I know that rodents and rats, rodents and rats, rodents are rats, rodents, rats and mice, they are incontinent, i.e., they are unable to stop themselves from pooing all over the place. They can't stop themselves from pooing all over the place, all right? So it serves to reason based upon deductive logic that Master Splinter, if he's a giant rat, yeah, if he's a giant rat, that means he should be unable to stop himself from pooing all over the sewer uncontrollably, all right? So therefore, I believe, based upon my own observation, that Master Splinter should be wearing an adult-sized nappy, all right? He should be. Master Splinter's incontinent. He should be pooing all over the place, or he should be wearing an adult-sized nappy to stop himself from pooing and urinating everywhere in the turtle's lair. Michelangelo should really be angry and be saying, "Oh my gosh, Master Splinter, you've done it again. I can't believe this. I have to clean all of this up. I can't believe it." I mean, Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, Raphael, they should all get together and try and get a deal, get a Pampers deal, and get some, get some Pampers for Master Splinter to help his incontinence, to stop him from pooing all over the place. I mean, what's happening here? You can say Splinter is hitting Shredder with his tail, but what's this flying in the air? Now, based upon what I've just said, it's very likely that these things here could be Master Splinter's droppings flying through the air. But anyway, I'm digressing. Now let's move on to the Shredder. Astrologically speaking, oh yeah, by the way, mouse droppings, astrologically, and rat droppings are ruled by Scorpio, because Scorpio rules waste, stinking areas, excrement, all right? So that still ties in. So let's go on to Shredder, all right? Now, Shredder, what does he come to do? He comes to instill laws. He wants to, especially in the 2014 film, he wanted to, not even the 2014 film, the film from the 90s, he wanted to come in and take over the whole city and instill new laws, yeah, enlist new laws, new legislation, new boundaries, new limits, all right? He came in and represented the end of life and the rebirth of something new, all right? Now, if you look at him in this old picture, he's wearing black, all right? And then look at this up here. Look at his headdress. This metallic headdress. Now, to me, it's a bit obvious. He comes to instill new laws. He's wearing black. He's got this metallic headdress and all these metal implements around him. He's called a Shredder. He comes to bring an end to life as you know it, a death to life as you know it, and bring in something new. And even in the 90s film, he kidnapped Splinter, and the Turtles had a time limit in order to find Splinter. If they didn't find Splinter in a set amount of time, they feared that Splinter would die, all right? So, Shredder enlisted a time limit. So this tells me that Shredder himself, blatantly, represents Saturn. He represents Saturn. He represents Saturn blatantly because he's holding, for example, he's holding the scythe, which is what Saturn represents, the Grim Reaper with the scythe. Yeah? Even this thing around here looks like the rings of Saturn, all right? And then this part up here looks like the scythe that Father Time would carry. He comes to enlist boundaries, rules, and legislation. The Turtles have a time limit in which they must find Splinter. Even in the 2014 film, they had a time limit. Is it the first film or the second one? Where the bomb was going to go off and they needed to disarm the bomb within a time limit. Why is that? Because of Shredder. Because Shredder is Father Time. He controls time. He enlists time. And he wears black, which is synonymous with Saturn. He comes in to instill new laws, order, boundaries, legislation, and limits. Take over the city. Have everybody work for him. Give them his energy. Eat his children, just like Father Time. In this image here, he's wearing a lot of metal as well as red. red corresponds with Mars, the warrior spirit, the blood that is spilling. All right. Now Mars is the lesser malefic, whereas Saturn is the greater malefic. And just like I mentioned in another video, the fact that he wears a black cape with red right here is synonymous and corresponds with Mars and Saturn, the greater and lesser malefic, astrologically speaking. And Shredder, has come to be the malefic general. He has come to be as malefic as possible, all right, and inflict the most amount of pain possible, all right, because he is Saturn. Even in the 90s film, Shredder, he had Splinter, the rat, the incontinent rat, the adult incontinent rat who should be wearing a adult size nappy. Shredder had Splinter kind of like in a kind of position, strung up on a wall, looking like he was crucified. Why is that? Because Shredder represents Saturn. And as you can see here, this is like a cross. The cross of Christ. Or the crux constellation, yeah? Where the Son of God is crucified upon. And as you can see here, this is a cross. Then you got this part here, which is the hill, which can be seen as, was it Golgotha? Which is the hill that in the Christian myth, this is the cross that the Son, S-U-N, of God was crucified upon on top of this hill. And that's what Saturn represents, death, all right, which is Shredder. So as you can see, going through it quite briefly, it's quite obvious that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is based upon largely the symbolism of ancient astrology, all right? This is the ThaBadbrey Herbal SSR of the ThaBadbreyHerbal.co.uk. Ancient astrologer. And I will be back. Dendra. Stay tuned.